Hey, guys in the back.
Yeah. Dear guests, dear partners, thanks so much for joining. We are at the business section, and we're going to have very amazing time. And I will be hosting this stream before lunch today. And we are going to have a panel discussion, and let me present the hosts for the panel discussion. Let me present Liana Shatova, Partner Success Manager from our Boston office, and Kate Kim, Partner Success Manager from our Boston office as well. And we are going to speak about working with small and big fleets, pros and cons, and they're gonna present the speakers. So give please a round of applause to our panelists.
Okay, welcome to our discussion. And as we start, we want our guests, honorable guests, to introduce themselves. Where are you from? What company you represent?
Okay. Well, hey, I'm Anthony Weed. I'm from the United States, live in Alabama. I represent SouthWinds GPS. Been with Gurtam probably going on a little over 4 years. I've just been in the industry as a whole probably over 20, so.
I'm Mike Rodriguez from Oigo Telematics in Miami, Florida. More or less the same, about 20 years, so a dinosaur in this business. But we've also been with Wheelon for about 4 or 5 years, I think. Tremendous partner, Wheelon, so I'm very appreciative of everything they've done for us, and happy to take any questions today.
Hi, my name is Suhail Sherif. I'm from Afritrack in Tanzania in East Africa. We've been in the business, I suppose we are the younger ones now, so 13 years. Also with Wildland for a good 3, 4, or 5 years. It's been a great journey of growth, and we're expanding in the East African region now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So we'll start with blocks of questions about working with smaller and bigger fleets. And Kate, can you please,
Sure.
start?
Yeah, thank you again for the introduction, gentlemen. And we start with basic questions. What's your business classification? What vertical you're working at? What is the small or big fleet for you? And what do you work with, small or big fleets, based on your experience and your company profile?
I guess with us, just where we live at or where we're based at, but we kind of do both, the both medium and I guess larger fleets. We sell probably primarily into the medium-sized fleets or companies. I mean, our vertical is, we're kind of just spread across. We do the asset tracking, of course, the typical GPS tracking, and now more of the dash cam is kind of where we're going to. So.
And just to clarify, how many units do you consider to be the medium, size clients?
Medium size would probably be, let's just say between 30 and 50.
30, 50 units?
Yeah, and then probably a larger fleet for us would be around 200.
200
would be a
units.
larger, yeah,
Okay.
for us, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So for us, I guess the medium-sized fleet is probably somewhere about 150.
150?
Yeah, but we will take business, obviously, we will take 10 units or 5 units or 1 unit, so we're not picky. And I guess the bulk of our customers are probably in that 150 to 200 ballpark. So, and we like to keep them small. I mean, it's great to win a big piece of business, but it's also scary when you lose them, so.
But what is the range here? What are we talking about? Like from 1, 2 to...
I guess our largest customer, national chain in Mexico, they probably sitting on 1,700 trucks. That's our largest account, spread out all over the country. And our smallest account is literally 1, 2, 3 trucks.
Okay, thank you. Suhail?
Yes, in terms of ranges, I would tend to agree. Small fleets are small city delivery, kind of 10 units. I would say medium is anything between 10 and 50 or so. We would consider 100 trucks a larger fleet. Our big transporters are between 100 and 300 trucks each.
And out of all the units that you have on the platform, what's the proportion? Like, for example, 80% are medium to small fleets and 20% the bigger fleets out of all the units that you have?
Good question. Hello? Yeah. We are probably 60-40, so 40% being the larger fleets. So we tend to have a lot more larger than smaller in as far as the amount of units that, how we consolidate our volume. But we do have a lot of just independent companies as well. We do very little owner operator. That is probably not even 1% of our business.
Okay.
Probably for us, it's probably the opposite. It's probably more like 70-30, medium, and the 30% be the larger accounts is what we sell into. Yeah.
Okay.
In our business for fleets alone, because we don't only do fleets, but in fleets alone, we've kind of specialized on larger trucks and cross-border. So in our case, would be probably 80% would be the big transporters, and 20% would be the more metro national traffic.
So it's 80 to 20, 60 to 40, and 70 to 30. Okay, great, thank you. So now we would like to ask you questions about the business cycle, about the sales cycle when it comes to smaller versus big fleets. Well, the tendency is that obviously bigger fleets take more time to be closed, right? The bigger deals. So my first question is related to leads. Where do you get the leads for bigger size fleets versus smaller size clients?
Anyone?
Okay. As far as the leads, we don't really do any kind of major marketing. That's probably our weakest link, you would say. But with us, it's been more of word of mouth. It's just like yesterday when the last meeting, I had a call from a referral that somebody referred us. So that's kind of where we've been getting most of our business. But as far as selling into, of course, the small and medium businesses is an easier sale process because of you can talk to the decision maker. Usually, I'd say close would be probably between 15 and 30 days.
15 to 30 days.
Yeah,
like
to
2 weeks to 1 month.
Yeah, to close it. This all depending on the situation. Or your larger companies, depending if you're selling a government account or something such as that, it could be 60 to 90 days. Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
For us, I guess the leads, we're doing a lot of AdWords over the internet. That's worked very well for us. Even though we do have a considerable number of distributors or sub-distributors, we've also done partnerships, and I would suggest this for everyone here. We've done partnerships with people who own accounts, who are selling accounts something else. So, we've done a deal with, just local tire shops, people who service trucks. I'm not talking about the tire shop on the corner, but, someone who specializes in selling tires and servicing fleets. That's been a pretty good lead generation tool for us. We basically, pay them a commission for trucks that, for trucking companies that they bring in. And that's where we get a lot of small and medium-sized accounts. And we've also done deals with people who sell insurance to trucking companies. Because they know, obviously, how many claims they've had, for robbery or whatever. So it's kind of a very hot lead when something comes in like that. So we basically aggregate, some form of income to insurance brokers or tire shops, and that's actually worked pretty well for us. And I think one of the speakers yesterday mentioned about doing partnerships or co-marketing, with non-threatening products, right?
But are we talking about smaller businesses or big fish?
Big fish is different. In Mexico, which is our strongest market, it's a very consolidated market. So there's a lot of bids that come in. It's a very mature market. The Mexican market has been fleet tracking for over 30 years. So you're not going in and explaining what a GPS is,
Right.
or the tracking. We along has come in very handy because a good portion of our growth, at least in the first couple of years, was taking other people's business. I mean, they had existing an existing solution, and with We Along, we would come in and explain all the features and differences between one and the other and the flexibility, and that allowed us to grow very quickly. But that was done literally, knocking on doors, the old way.
Knocking on doors works
knocking
with
on
bigger
doors
fleets.
and then the other part, which I was telling you about the partnerships, it's obviously easier when you're able to get to a decision maker
Yes.
with a product such as insurance, because normally the person who's brokering insurance is speaking at a very high level in a company.
Right, so it's like a more corporate level,
Yeah,
you'd say. Okay.
it's a more corporate sell. But you're going in with someone that already knows the owner, and obviously word of mouth, never fails as well.
That works.
Give the customer good service, he's going to refer you to people.
Absolutely.
What about you, Suhail?
For us, with relation to the big fleets, our lead generation is mostly referrals, either friendly companies referring on other friendly companies, but ironically, even competitors of one trucking company finds out who his competitor is using and then contacts us. So we find that very interesting, and a lot of that is there. We have traditionally been pretty weak or not so strong on marketing, so we don't attract too much leads on our website and stuff like that. So it's mostly those kind of leads. For big fleets, it helps because it's a relatively smaller community. Everybody knows each other, and word spreads around very, very fast between all the big truckers. With regards to small fleet, that lead management thing doesn't work at all. Because for one, there's hundreds of very small companies. Because traditionally we have not targeted them, we don't put a lot of effort. But the leads that do come in are usually we're either servicing their generators or their personal cars, then they bring their other businesses to us.
So I'm not sure if Mike or Suhail mentioned how many days or how much time it takes to close the bigger fish or a smaller fish in the tank.
So small accounts, it's the same thing. It's a 15 to 30-day cycle. It's a fast decision, not a lot of trucks, not a lot of money. We do a lot of consignment of hardware, so we don't sell the hardware. We'll sell the plans, over a 12 or 24-month contract. That helps accelerate a lot of the decision, obviously. I don't think we've sold hardware probably in 2 or 3 years where we actually went in and tried to make money on the hardware. That just doesn't exist anymore in this market. We're happy to go get a $15 a month subscriber. If we can get $15 a month, we're ecstatic, and we amortize the hardware over the term. On the large accounts, we're in Mexico, we're probably looking at more like 6 months. Customers really like to battle test, the solution. And normally the large accounts, are several hundred at least units, and they want to test coverage, they want to test the device, they want to test you against other companies. So it's a much longer cycle. Probably somewhere around 6 months on average.
Okay.
For small fleets, I share the very similar experience because it's one guy, he owns it, he runs it, he pays for the fuel, and if he tells you it's done, it's done. So traditionally 15 to 30 days if he's actively looking. For the larger fleets, it's very interesting. I would say 3 to 6 months if they're actively looking. However, I do have one very interesting story of my longest ever sales lead that just closed about a month ago, and the lead time was 10 years.
Wow. That's great.
Congratulations.
This guy, we had approached him. He had said he's not interested. We kept on checking on him and on, and he
Once a year, probably.
he remained in the database once every 6 months or so. But the really funny thing about that lead, and this, I don't know if there's serious similar experience here. I was talking to the CEO of that company, and I thought that's the best you could do in a company. And I was bouncing, and then last month, my sales executive, who he has a sales manager, then there's a general manager, then there's me. It says, guess what? Golden Coach called us and asked if we are servicing this other company. We said yes. He says, can you come see me? And I had nothing to do with it, and I just decided to stay out of it. And he closed it. So 10 years.
Persistency pays off.
Do we have any questions from the audience about the leads, about that, sales funnel question, or probably experience? Okay, not yet. Okay. Okay, great. So when you're closing, obviously when you're closing the bigger guys, right? Do you provide any, or when you're trying to close, when you're working on it, do you provide any incentives or discounts? Like, what is the major hook on it? Like, what's the, what differentiates you from your competitors, apart from the platform and the services that we're providing?
Not really. I guess probably some of our government accounts, we offer a lower price just because of, I think yesterday one of the discussions, because of the telecom companies, Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, they're going there with a government type rate.
Right.
But as far as like giving away any equipment or anything such as that, offering any kind of credits, no, we don't do anything like that. So.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And for us, as I mentioned, for us, the big issue is being able to replace somebody else's hardware or legacy system when we're going into an account that already has something, a competitor's or a previous company. But big motivators is consigning the hardware into the
Okay.
account, and basically raising the bar that anyone that wants to compete against us at that specific account has to come in and do the same. So we use a lot of that to sell, and obviously, it still has to be competitive, right?
Well, of course.
So if we don't have the right price, it's an issue, right? And it's funny in Mexico when we, the We Along is a software's got a lot of representation. So there's a lot of dealers out there who are competing with the same tool at a specific customer. When that's the case, it's really playing our hand regarding how many officers we have, how many technicians we have, how fast we can install the project once the decision is made, things like that. So we'll go above and beyond on the service side or in the implementation side in order to gain business. We really don't get into price battles because the market's more or less stabilized. And again, the smaller companies kind of weed themselves out because they don't have the infrastructure to take on a big deal.
Okay.
In our scenario, what actually closes the deal? Definitely the Wireline portal and the functionality is there, but there's more. So in the pros and cons, I was jotting down some points. So with our bigger fleets, we generally have less attention to individual truck detail, but we need more consolidated reports. So the fleet manager just wants to know how many liters per kilometer average across the fleet of 200 trucks. The CFO wants to see on his SAP total revenue per kilometer covered, and so on and so forth. So for the larger fleets, it's a pro and a con. The con is that there's a lot more design thinking from our part, whereby we find out what they want, what kind of reports they want. We proof of concept that report to such an extent that we had to build our own, what we call the BI portal, Business Intelligence Portal. And all it does, it just goes into the Wireline system, refers 10 or 12 reports, pulls them, consolidates them in exactly how the customer wants to see. That BI portal is just a reporting tool that pulls from Wireline. That has proved to be one of our biggest sales selling point, and mostly because every CFO, every fleet manager, every garage manager, he knows the report he wants to see, and he doesn't want to change his ways. So he will tell you, I want column A, column B, column C. We just play around with it and we say, this is your customized report, and for the most part, they love that. The bigger fleets are more difficult to service in that way.
Right.
But once they're with you, there's a much longer life cycle. Because now for them to move, unless you really screw up, for them to move, you're now part of their operations. So we love it because it's maximum stickiness with the customer. With the larger fleets, we also encourage that because there's a lot of upsell opportunity.
Right.
So whereas he always comes in very price conscious, very nitpicky, We put a device, of course, he doesn't pay for the device, he doesn't pay for installation, we do it all, so it's now called tracking as a service. But we put a device that we can upsell and scale. So once he's using it, he says, oh, did you also know we can do axle load sensor because you get penalties on the road? Did you also know we can do MDVRs, video cameras on there, driver ID, messaging pad? So these are all opportunities to upsell. And once the basic unit is in the truck, you got your foot in your door, and it's up to you to upsell
Right.
it.
I guess, Suhail, you touched upon a really nice thing. We are talking about selling, but what exactly are we selling? What features do we sell, and what services do we sell using VLON for small and big fleets? And again, pros and cons, and I appreciate you discussed this, and we want to hear from Anthony and Mike. What do you use? What do you sell to your big and small fleets?
What services or features are, knock the clients down, basically? I mean, the whole platform obviously does, but
Pretty. I mean, I make it simple for me and the customer because I don't want to go in there and say, okay, for this price you get this. We just basically just kind of sell it. All right, for this amount of money, you pretty much get everything we offer on the reporting side. Other than we have to do ELD, electronic logs, because it's now mandated. And so we offer that service, but of course there's an upcharge with that particular service. And then you have asset tracking. Of course we sell it at a cheaper price. So we have 3 different prices. And then of course we step into the cameras, dash cameras, which is really becoming more and more popular in the States. And that's probably more of our push right now because we see more of a niche in that market. Prices come down on equipment. And of course, in the monthly recurring for the customer, it's come down, so it's more affordable. So that's what we push. It's like I said, and then with the Wayland app, just the mobile app, it's pretty of a slam dunk deal for us because I can just go in there and pretty much sell the solution to show them the mobile app. But that's
so the mobile app makes deals.
Oh yeah,
close.
oh yeah, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
mobile app.
What
for
do you say? What's the ratio between your clients using mobile app versus hosting on
man.
desktop?
Really, I'd dare to say probably 60 to 70% of my customers probably use more of the mobile app.
Okay.
Yeah. At least that's,
Small, big fleets.
Yeah. Because they're out in the field or whatnot. If they have a dispatch type person, then they're using of course, the desktop version. But I'd say majority of them are using the mobile app. So I'd say 60 to 70% would be a good number.
Okay.
Yep.
Mike, what about you? What features do you sell?
In our case, it's a little different. I mean, in because we're spread out over different geographies, and when you look at the U.S. market, I agree with Anthony. I mean, it's really cookie cutter. We plan A, plan B, plan C. About 95% of the customers will fit in one of those 3 plans. I also agree with the business intelligence, the dashboard and stuff, making it, executive level reports that are just easy to glance at and know if, if something's good or bad, in your operations. So that helps. In Latin America, it's different because and it's probably the same case in most international countries. I mean, I've traveled extensively to a lot of countries selling hardware, and the telemetry is a big deal. So, in Mexico and in a lot of the South American countries, fuel theft is a big deal. We've seen a lot of interest now in the online cameras. I want to see what's going on, and the driver compliance, and make sure your driver's behaving. Not lighting a cigarette while he's driving a Shell truck with 40,000 gallons of fuel in it. So there's a lot of that. So internationally, a lot more integration. So you really have to step up with your sensors and really be kind of cutting edge. And in the U.S., you get your occasional project that has something specific. And this is when I'm talking in a broad sense. When you step into a niche, like oil and gas, now it's a completely different ballgame. Right now, you're really, having sensors and a whole bunch of issues, to resolve for the customer.
Right. Okay, thank you. So for Anthony, it's the dash cams and the
Mobile app.
Mobile app for Mike. It's basically fuel theft, and also other integrations for Suhail is business intelligence tools, reports, extensive and scalability of reports, so that it's available to all of the customers with bigger fleets. Okay, great. Do we have any questions from the audience or any comments? Not yet. The morning just started. Okay. Okay.
You guys
great.
didn't drink enough coffee, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the next section is about your sales force or your also manpower. Right. So whenever you close smaller fleet or a bigger fleet, how do you train your customers on the platform, on the features that they bought from you? And what does it take you to train one client of yours? Like how much time it takes, and how many people are involved from your team? What's the distribution of the, basically of the personnel?
With us, typical, we usually do like a team viewer type call. I mean, we have done some on-site training. The portal is really not that hard to use. We have some customers, it's just doesn't matter what you do, you just can't train them. They're untrainable.
When you sell everything to them, so because the platform is robust, it's a mature platform, right? So
yeah.
So does that take one team viewer call or many other sessions and then questions after?
Typically, I would say one, but if you want to no more than probably two.
Two.
Yeah. Is what it takes to train our folks. So it's pretty simple, yeah. It really didn't take a lot of manpower to do it, so.
And what do you usually show? Only the hosting interface and some of the reports, or everything already is preset?
Yeah, we open it up. So we pretty much just go through the whole, the reporting side, depending on the customers. Like, we do a lot of some of the trucking industry, so they want to run IFTA reports and speeding reports.
IFTA and speeding, okay.
So we show them how to run the report, set them up where they can get alerts or get emailed once a month, that kind of stuff. Set up geofences. So yes, yeah,
okay.
pretty simple.
For us it's somewhat similar. I mean, we expect the salesperson to train his account, and he's the key go-to guy during the life cycle of that customer. We do have, we've got the call center and online training and all that stuff as well. But normally at least that first stage, the salesperson knows the software well enough to set it up in a way that the customer can use it. It's not difficult. Most customers want kind of the same things anyway,
right.
So it's very repetitive. And then there's 24 access to someone that they can call in when the customer needs something, and we'll actually go in and do it remotely for them. But it's really just a questionnaire. What do you want? I mean, figure out exactly what the customer wants, walk through those steps, and you go forward. But the salesperson is critical in the setup of the customer for us.
And how many salespeople do you have on staff? Just to see the scale.
Probably about 16.
16 people.
Yeah, 16 to 18 people in sales. Plus what the distributors have, because we sell a lot through distributors. So we have 16 that go direct to accounts, and then in different regionals we'll have a distributor in XYZ region of a country, and they'll it's their job to take care of that part of the country.
Okay.
So it's probably a group of about, in total about 40 people.
40 people,
Yeah.
each training, having one or
Yeah.
two sessions with the clients.
Yeah.
So that's okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you. And Suhail, what about you?
Some similar aspects in that our salespeople will do a lot of the training. We'll be doing more of the design thinking when we're onboarding a customer. However, when the installation is done, we have a department called Online Experience, and this is the person that will go and give a detailed face-to-face session. It's usually 3 hours, and they'll go through everything. Now, in that first session, the customer is just onboarded, so many times they get overloaded. So then we give them a cooling off period, and then they may need a refresher, but then that's handled by the salesperson. One thing I'd like to mention is that unlike the experiences of my colleagues, every customer that we've come across all tend to have slightly different requirements. And so we don't have the luxury of one size fits all. I wish we did, because it would really reduce our overheads. So we have to customize it. And Wildon is such an extensive platform, I like to think of it like Excel can do a hell of a lot of stuff. I'm quite a big user of Excel, but probably I'm using 10 or 20% of its total functionality. So in the same way, we like to put an online experience executive with the customer, so they try and get the maximum value. The one complaint or comment is when the person logs in, there's too many options.
Yes.
So we really try and shrink it down to exactly what they need to see, the 3 reports they pull out per day, try and make it as simple as possible. But the good thing about Wildon is that it's customizable.
Right.
Yeah.
So the less is more in this case, right? You don't want to provide, like one of my partners compared Violon to a buffet, when you can, have everything you want and as much as you want. But when you are sort of fed up with it, you don't know what to do with that, right? So a lot of you mentioned some prep work before opening up to the end user or to the distributor, making sure that Violon or the platform, your platform, white label solution, has all of the things that the end user wants to see without something extra. So, there are no additional questions. Okay, great. When it comes to, so we already talked about training the, bigger or smaller fleets. I'm assuming it's pretty much the same process. How often do you yourself or do your salespeople reach out to Gurtam 24/7 support when it comes to smaller or bigger fleets?
What's the ratio?
Right. So
Who
when we're
bugs you
talking
more?
about bigger fleets and the client is more sophisticated and advanced, do your salespeople, pay a lot of, spend a lot of time talking to us? Are we helpful? Or to the personal managers from Violon? What would you say? I see Anthony
It's a
smiling.
loaded question.
Yeah, that is a loaded question.
We all know he's support person.
Make sure I understand you correctly. How much do
Do you call me? How many times do you call me per day?
Our support 24/7.
I don't know, I try not to call much at all, but I was probably dare to say that we probably reach out to you guys 2 or 3 times a week, maybe.
2 or 3 times a
Yeah.
week? When supporting bigger fleets, I'm assuming, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if we reach out to you guys, it's just because of something kind of, well, I just use the fuel reporting situation we have, but that we can't really resolve or trying to, get it fixed too. But 2 to 3 times a week. is
2 or
what
3
we-
times
yeah,
a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about you, Mike? How often do you call me?
I call you to talk to you because I like you. So,
Oh, thank you so much.
but no, we don't. I don't think we are a high maintenance account. I think we maybe once, twice a week, perhaps. But I think it's more. We talk more about sales.
Right.
Sales focused. We've got 2 or 3 people that are really experienced on the platform. So when we do speak to the technical side, it's because we probably spent a couple of hours trying to figure it out and couldn't figure it out. So it's very pocket, pocket items that we need your help with. And then we've also done the API. We use the API,
Right.
so there was a lot of support in the beginning. But over the years, it's gotten less and less. It's really more of a learning thing when we see something in an email or something, and we call you and we say, listen, we'd like to see that product. How does that work, or what does that mean?
Right. So it's about the product updates and also some of the pre-sales
Yeah.
requests. Okay.
Yeah, and as far as calling, the help desk, it's really been more of an issue of something being down or,
Right.
when obviously you have to call, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
they've always been very responsive and very professional. So.
Okay. What you, Suhail?
In our case, with regards to small fleets and big fleets,
Right.
If everything works well, we don't call because we can set it up on our own. So it's not specific to small or big fleets. However, where we have run into some trouble, then we call immediately.
Right.
And we do get assistance. Of course, we have to be a bit patient when the customer is not patient with us.
Right.
But those are in the instances where the customer pulled out one report, it showed a total value something.
Right.
He pulled out the exact same data range in another report and it was different one, and now he can't figure out.
Those executive reports, like those,
No,
or
no, the
not
wild
necessarily.
ones.
Okay.
So in that case, then we have pretty much a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And we escalate it, and Wylon recognizes it and then gives us a
Fixes it.
time frame. But day in, day out selling, we don't have to contact Wylon, and that's a good thing.
So you don't use Violon or your personal manager support or implementation specialist to do some prep work for the pre-sales, for example, to set up the the services that the client wants.
No, not on a per customer basis.
Not or okay.
Yeah, but if we get a new project, let's say we're getting a new customer, he needs a report or an output that we don't currently have on the Wylon thing, then we would engage our account manager and our implementation specialist. But for everything else, we do it on our own.
Okay. Great.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess to summarize our discussion, we have this one last question maybe for you. People have this preconceived ideas that big fleet, working with big fleets, working with big accounts is a business success. Is it true in your case? Is it easier to work with big or small or big fleets? Is it
more successful?
more lucrative,
Right.
more easier, more?
So you're asking me is it easier, bigger success working with the bigger fleets or the medium-sized fleets?
Would you choose to work only bigger guys?
Well, I mean, I guess from a money standpoint, revenue standpoint, yes, because there's probably more units involved.
So it's the volume.
Is it easier?
Yes, it is easier because a lot of times those guys have so much going on their everyday task, whatever they're doing. They just want it to work like they asked it to work. And where on your smaller fleets, they're usually I hate to say it, but they're very nitpicky. They don't have a lot going on, so usually they're very needy. Where your bigger fleets, they're not so needy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for us, it's the same experience. I mean, we love big accounts, obviously, and we'll take those all day long. If you get everything set up correctly on the front end and everything's working, you rarely ever hear from them. Small accounts are, as you said, very,
More
very
demanding.
picky. So I would tend to say yes. I'll take big fleets over the other fleets.
Likewise, big fleets, bigger revenues, bigger numbers, more possibilities for upselling. However, like my colleague mentioned, the bigger they are, when you lose them, it's a huge hit. Whereas if you have a lot of less customers, then luckily we don't lose customers so much, so it's not too big a deal. But there is one interesting point I'd like to mention with big fleets. It's usually very complex relationship management because like in many places, fuel theft, tire theft, misuse, this is why we're helping the customer. So from the CEO, the CFO, the fleet manager, the driver, they all have different interests. And some of those people may be the very thing that's the problem. So managing them at different levels becomes very, very complex. You go to the fleet manager and say, you're running your operations wrong, this is the right report. You know what, you just stepped on his toes, and he's going to say you're not a good tracking company.
Okay.
You go to the owner and you say something else, somebody will get fired or will get questioned. So it's very, very complex dealing with those relationships. But yes, overall, we do prefer bigger fleets because it's easier to manage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe as the last attempt to ask audience questions, please. Do we have a microphone? Oh.
My name is Diana. I'm Violon hosting expert from our development team, and I have one question for you as experts. Also, what do you think about improvement and changes in Velon which can help you increase amount of your customers, amount of units. Just a little brief, maybe main ideas.
Thank you.
I got one that Liana and I always talk about. For us, it's become increasingly more difficult to get a view of our subscriber base. A lot of companies, small, big. So you know, the bigger you are, the more you lose contact with the every day-to-day business, right? So we've asked for executive level reports regarding net additions, regarding what came off on a particular day. We'd like to see it live, right? And even if it's alerts, because as an owner manager of a company, we're sitting on almost 20,000 subscribers today. So I don't know what comes off until I get my bill at the end of the month. And I found out this month that I lost 400. Last month we did 600 more, but I lost 400. And I'd like to know every day what's coming off.
Yeah, what happened on every particular day?
Well, I literally, if I have nothing to do and I get an email at the end of the day that says, hey, you lost 40 trucks today, well, I'd like to be able to call into that regional office and say, hey, what's going on? So that's a big deal for us. That's a big deal for us.
What about you, Suhail?
In terms, difficult question, I must admit. In terms of what improvements Wyland can do on the portal that'll increase sales. I think the portal is fairly good. I'm sure there's small improvements here and there that are ongoing. The really, really good thing that Wyland is doing is the spin-off apps. Driver Log, Logistics app, Fleet Run. These are amazing add-ons, and I think Wyland should keep doing it because it's really funny. We go to a customer and we didn't get him on the business intelligence and the tracking and all of that, and then we mentioned logistics apps, like, oh, I do deliveries. Can I buy the logistics apps but not the GPS tracking? So this is a normal question. So I think that builds a lot of added value. The second is of course price. Price is not something that Wyland likes to discuss a lot, and I do believe good value, you pay the thing. But when we go for much smaller retail end customers who don't need so much functionality, we're paying Wyland the exact same fee that we would be charging a very high value, high end trucking company. And so we can be competitive in the trucking thing, but we can't be so competitive with the very retail home user kind of things. Yeah, especially when our competitors buy cheap devices and they get a portal for free with that. So we can't really compete with that. Maybe that's something that Wyland may look at, differentiated services, the basic bare bones versus the premium, something possible.
Okay, and we have 2 minutes just to wrap up the conversation.
I guess kind of hitting on what he said just as far as the mobile apps, which I do like, but wish we could. We're working on, as I mentioned, in the dash cameras and stuff is what we're getting into. So we have more requests to have the feature on the mobile app where we can play that video, of some sort, just on their handheld. So I think that would be a big plus to increase sales on our side. It'd be an easy sale.
So access through to the video through the Velon mobile app.
Correct. Yes, because when you walk into and you can talk to your customer, you don't have to. First of all, they're giving you a few minutes of their time to see you, and then the last thing they want to do is crack open their computer and all that stuff. So if you can simply take a few minutes, show them your mobile app. Yes, simple. And then the next thing is, I think me and Tommy, who's in the back, we mentioned that probably we've talked about in the past having the portal, the CMS, integrated with our back-end, like QuickBooks Finance, where that would be integrated. So the billing process, because that's kind of a nightmare on our end, dealing when you add on units, you take away units. So if that could kind of be integrated in, that would resolve a lot of issues on the back end. So, yeah, so that's about it.
Thank you
you.
very much for all of the answers for this wonderful panel discussion. We appreciate your time. Please
Thank
give
you.
a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we also invite you to stay for the next panel discussion, which will be real obstacles that prevent